Hello, and welcome to the 36th episode of Scripture in a Year, hosted by Saints Peter and Paul Orthodox Church in the Albanian Archdiocese of the OCA. Today's reading is Numbers chapters 21 through 24. Now the Canaanite king of Arad, who was dwelling in the desert, heard the news, for Israel came by way of Atharim. Therefore he made war against Israel, and they carried off captives from them as booty. Then Israel made a vow to the Lord and said, "If you will indeed deliver this people into my hand, I will anathematize him and his cities." So the Lord listened to the voice of Israel and delivered up the Canaanites, and they anathematized him and his cities. Therefore they called the name of that place Anathema. Then they departed from Mount Hor by the way of the Red Sea, and they went around the land of Edom, and the people became discouraged on the way. So the people spoke against God and against Moses. "Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to kill us in the desert? For there is no bread nor water, and our soul is weary of this worthless bread." So the Lord sent venomous serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many of the children of Israel died. Then the people came to Moses and were saying, "We sinned, for we spoke against the Lord and against you. Therefore, pray to the Lord, and let him take away the serpent from us." So Moses prayed for the people. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Make a serpent for yourself, and put it on a signal pole. And it shall be, if a serpent should bite someone, when the one bitten looks at it, he shall live." So Moses made a copper serpent and put it on a signal pole. And it happened, when a serpent bit anyone, and he looked at the copper serpent, he lived. After this, the children of Israel broke camp, and camped in Oboth. From there they broke camp and camped at the other side of the Oboth. Then they broke camp at Oboth and camped at Ije Abarim, which is on the other side of the desert, that is, over against Moab, toward the sunrise. From there they broke camp and camped in the valley of Zered. From there they broke camp and camped on the other side of the Arnon, in the desert which runs along the border of the Amorites, for the Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. Therefore it is said in the book, "The war of the Lord, he set on fire Zub and the brooks of the Arnon, and he established the brooks for to inhabit near the borders of Moab." Then from there they went on to the well, which is the well where the Lord said to Moses, "Gather the people together, and I will give them water to drink." Then Israel sang this song about the well. Begin the song. As for the well, rulers dug it, kings of nations hewed it in stone, in their kingly rule when they were the Lord's. Then from the well they went to Mattanah, and from Mattanah to Nahaliel, from Nahaliel to Bamoth, and from Bamoth to the valley, that is, the plain of Moab, which from the top of the quarried rock looks out against the desert. Then Moses sent the ambassadors to Sihon, king of the Amorites, with peaceful words, saying, "Let us pass through your land. We will journey on the road, and not turn aside either into a field or a vineyard. We will not drink water from your well. We will journey on the king's highway until we pass beyond your borders." But Sihon would not allow Israel to pass through his borders. So Sihon gathered all his people together and went out to engage Israel in battle in the desert. So he came to Jahaz and engaged Israel in battle. Then Israel struck him with slaughter by the sword and gained dominion over his land, from the Arnon to the Jabbok, as far as the sons of Ammon. For Jazer is the border of the sons of Ammon. So Israel took all these cities, and Israel dwelt in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon and in all its villages. For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who fought against the former king of Moab, and took all his land, from Aroer to the Arnon. Therefore those who speak in riddles say, "Come to Heshbon, so the city of Sihon may be built and made ready. For fire went out from Heshbon, a flame from the city of Sihon. It consumed as far as Moab, and swallowed up the pillars of the Arnon. Woe to you, Moab! You were destroyed. O people of Chemosh, Their sons were sold to be kept alive, and their daughters are captives to Sihon, king of the Amorites. Their seed shall perish from Heshbon to Dibon, and their women again stirred up the fire over Moab. Now Israel dwelt in all the cities of the Amorites. So Moses sent to spy out Jazer, and they took it and its villages, and cast out the Amorites dwelling there. After this they turned and went up the road to Bashan. So Og, king of Bashan, and his people came to meet them in battle at Edrei. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Do not fear him, for I have delivered him into your hand, with all his people and his land. And you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon." So they struck him, his sons, and all his people, until there was no survivor left him, and they inherited their land. Now the children of Israel broke camp and camped west of Moab, by the Jordan, across from Jericho. So when Balak the son of Zippor saw all that Israel did to the Amorites, and Moab was exceedingly afraid of the people, because they were many, and Moab was irritated because of the children of Israel. Then Moab said to the elders of Midian, "Now this congregation will lick up everything around us, as a young bull licks up the grass of the field." Now Balak the son of Zippor was king of the Moabites at the time. Then he sent ambassadors to Balaam, son of Beor, at Pethor, which is near the river in the land of the sons of his people, to call him, saying, "Look, a people came from Egypt. See, they cover the face of the earth and are settling next to me. Therefore come at once and curse this people for me, for they are stronger than we. If we would be able to strike some of them, then I could drive them out of the land. For I know he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed." So the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with their divinations in their hand, and they came to Balaam, and spoke to him the words of Balak. Then he said to them, "Lodge here tonight, and I will bring back to you whatever words the Lord may speak to me." So the princes of Moab stayed with Balaam. God then came to Balaam and said to him, "Who are these men with you?" So Balaam said to God, "Balak the son of Zippor, king of Moab, sent to me, saying, 'Look, a people come out of Egypt, and they cover the face of the earth, and are settling next to me. Therefore come at once and curse them for me. Perhaps I shall be able to strike them and drive them from the land.' Then God said to Balaam, 'You shall not go with them, neither shall you curse the people, for they are blessed.' So Balaam rose in the morning and said to the rulers of Balak, 'Return to your Lord, for God is not allowing me to go with you.' Therefore the rulers of Moab rose and went to Balak and said, 'Balaam is unwilling to come with us.' Balak yet again sent rulers, more numerous and more honorable than these. When they came to Balaam, they said to him, 'Thus says Balak the son of Zippor, I beg of you not to hesitate in coming to me, for I will certainly honor you greatly, and I will do whatever you say. Therefore come and curse this people for me.' Then Balaam answered and said to the rulers of Balak, 'Though Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not go beyond the word of the Lord God, to make it little or great in my mind. Now, wherefore, stay here tonight, so I may know what more the Lord will say to me.' Thus God came to Balaam at night and said to him, 'If these men are present to summon you, rise and follow them. But the word I speak to you, that you shall do.' So Balaam rose in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went with the rulers of Moab. Then God was very angry because he went, and the angel of God stationed himself to divert him from his purpose. Now he was riding on his donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. When the donkey saw the angel of God standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand, the donkey turned aside out of the way and went into the field. So Balaam struck the donkey with his staff to turn her back onto the road. Then the angel of God stood in a narrow path between the vineyards, with a wall on this side and a wall on that side. Now when the donkey saw the angel of God, she pushed herself against the wall and crushed Balaam's foot. So he struck her again. Then the angel of God went and stood in a narrow place, where there was no way to turn either to the right hand or to the left. So when the donkey saw the angel of God, she lay down under Balaam, and Balaam became angry, and struck the donkey with his staff. Then God opened the mouth of the donkey, and she said to Balaam, "What have I done to you, that you have struck me this third time?" Balaam then said to the donkey, "Because you abused me, I wish there were a sword in my hand, for now I would kill you." So the donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your donkey, on which you rode from your youth to this very day? Did I ever show such utter disregard for you?" He replied, "No." Then God opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand, and he bowed and worshipped. The angel of God then said to him, "Why did you strike your donkey a third time? Behold, I came out as your adversary, because your way was not acceptable before me. So when the donkey saw me, she turned aside from me this third time. If she had not turned aside from me, surely I would have killed you by now, and let her live." Then Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I sinned, for I did not know you met me as an adversary on the road. Now therefore, if my way is not acceptable to you, I will turn back." The angel of God then said to Balaam, "Go with the men, but only the word I may speak to you. This you must be careful to speak." So Balaam went with the rulers of Balak. Now when Balak heard Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him at the city of Moab, which is on the border of the Arnon, the boundaries of his territory. Then Balak said to Balaam, "Did I not earnestly send to summon you? Why did you not come to me? Am I not actually able to honor you?" Balaam then said to Balak, "Look, I did come to you. Shall I now be able to say anything? Whatever word God may put in my mouth, this I must speak." So Balaam went with Balak, and they came to unwalled encampments. Then Balak sacrificed sheep and young bulls, and he sent some to Balaam and to the rulers with him. When morning came, Balak took Balaam and brought him up to the pillar of Baal, and he showed him part of the people from there. Now Balaam said to Balak, "Build 7 altars for me here, and prepare for me 7 young bulls and 7 rams." So Balak did just as Balaam had spoken, and he offered a young bull and a ram on each altar. Then Balaam said to Balak, "Stand alongside your sacrifice, and I will go. Perhaps God will reveal himself to me in a meeting, and I will tell you whatever word he shows me." So Balak stood alongside his sacrifice, and Balaam went on a direct road to inquire of God. Thus God revealed himself to Balaam, and Balaam said to him, "I prepared 7 altars, and offered on each altar a young bull and ram." Then God put a word in Balaam's mouth, and said, "Return to Balak, and thus you shall speak." So he returned to him, and there he was, standing alongside his burnt offerings, he and all the rulers of Moab with him. Then the Spirit of God came upon him, and he took up his parable and said, "Balak the king of Moab summoned me from Mesopotamia, from the mountains of the east, saying, 'Come, curse Jacob for me, and come, call down a curse upon Israel.' How shall I curse whom the Lord did not curse? Or how shall I call down a curse upon whom God did not curse? For from the top of the mountains I see him, and from the hills I envision him. Behold, the people shall dwell alone, and they shall not be reckoned among the nations. Who can examine accurately the seed of Jacob and number the tribes of Israel? May my soul die with the souls of the righteous, and may my seed be as their seed." But Balak said to Balaam, "What have you done to me? I summoned you to curse my enemies, and look, you have blessed them bountifully." Then Balaam said to Balak, "Should I not be careful to speak whatever God may put into my mouth?" So Balak said to him, "Yet come with me to another place, from which vantage points you may not see him. You will see only a part, but not all of him. Then curse him for me from there." Then he took him along to a lookout point over the land, upon the summit of a hewn rock, and built 7 altars there, and he offered a young bull and a ram on each altar. Balaam then said to Balak, "Stand alongside your sacrifice while I go and inquire of God." Then God met Balaam, and put a word in his mouth, and said, "Return to Balak, and thus you shall speak." So he returned to him, and there he was, standing alongside his whole burnt offering. And all the rulers of Moab were with him. Balak then said to him, "What did the Lord say?" Then he took up his parable and said, "Rise up, Balak, and hear. Give ear as a witness, son of Zippor. God is not like a man to be deceived, nor like a son of man to be threatened. Would he, having spoken, not act? Or shall he speak and not stand by it? Behold, I receive to bless, and I shall bless and not reverse it. There shall be no trouble in Jacob, nor shall distress be seen in Israel. For the Lord his God is with him, and the glorious acts of rulers are in him. God brings them out of Egypt, like the glory of the unicorn for him. For there is no portent in Jacob, nor any divination in Israel. In due time it will be told to Jacob and Israel what God will accomplish. Behold, a people like a lion's cub will rise up, and will exult like a lion. It shall not lie down until it eats the prey, and drinks the blood of the slain. Then Balak said to Balaam, "Neither curse him with curses for me, nor actually bless him." So Balaam answered and said to Balak, "Did I not tell you, saying, the word God may speak, that I shall do?" Then Balak said to Balaam, "Come, I will take you along to another place, if it will please God to curse him for me from there." So Balak took Balaam along to the top of Peor, which extends into the desert. Then Balaam said to Balak, "Build 7 altars for me here, and prepare for me here 7 young bulls and 7 rams." So Balak did as Balaam told him, and he offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Now when Balaam saw it was good before the Lord to bless Israel, he did not go as he was accustomed to do, to seek and to find omens. But he turned and set his face toward the desert. Then Balaam raised his eyes and saw Israel encamped according to their tribes, and the Spirit of God came upon him. And he took up his parable and said, "Balaam the son of Beor declares, the man who truly sees declares, the one who hears the sayings of God declares, the one who saw the vision of God in the dream, a revelation seen by him. How beautiful are your dwellings, O Jacob, your tents, O Israel, like wooded valleys offering shade, and like gardens by the rivers, like tents the Lord pitched, like cedars beside the water. A man shall come forth from his seed, and he shall rule many nations, and his kingdom shall be more exalted than Gog, and his kingdom shall increase. God led him out of Egypt, and he has the glorious appearance of a unicorn. He shall consume the nations of his enemies, and deprive them of their strength. He shall shoot the enemy with his missiles. He lies down and rests like a lion, and like a lion's cub, who shall rouse him? Those who bless you are blessed, and those who curse you are cursed." Then Balak was angry with Balaam, and he struck his hands together, and Balak said to Balaam, "I summoned you to curse my enemy, and look, you actually blessed him for a 3rd time. Now therefore flee to your place. I said I would honor you, but in fact the Lord deprived you of glory." So Balaam said to Balak, "Did I not also tell your messengers whom you sent to me, saying, if Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not go beyond the Lord's word, to do good or evil of my own will? Whatever the Lord may say, this I shall speak. So now, indeed, I am going to my place. Come, I will counsel you as to what this people will do to your people in the latter days." So he took up his parable and said, "Balaam the son of Beor declares, the man who truly sees declares, the one who hears the sayings of God declares, the one who knows the knowledge of the Most High, and who saw the vision of God in a dream, a revelation seen by him. I will show him, but not now. I bless him, but he is not near. A star shall rise out of Jacob, and a man shall rise out of Israel. He shall break in pieces the rulers of Moab, and plunder all the sons of Seth. Edom shall be his inheritance, and also his enemies shall be his inheritance. But Israel acts with strength. He shall rise up out of Jacob, and destroy the survivors of the city." Then, seeing Amalek, he took up his parable and said, "Amalek was the first of nations, but their seed shall perish." Then, seeing the Kenites, he took up his parable and said, "Your dwelling is strong, And if you should put your nest in a rock, and become dwellings of craftiness for Beor, nevertheless the Assyrian shall take you captive. Then seeing Og, he took up his parable and said, Oh, who shall live whenever God may bring these things to pass? Now these things shall come to pass from the hand of the Kittians, and they shall also maltreat Ashur and the Hebrews, but they themselves with one accord shall perish. So Balaam rose and departed, and returned to his place. Balak also went to his own place. Here ends the reading for today.